Welcome to Waking Wellness. Today we have another amazingly transformative episode. Today our topic is the world will make room for you. This one, as most of the episodes, came as a download. I was just driving and it really dawned upon me while doing another episode actually. I was talking about just the feelings and being sometimes when you being an underdog, and we all are in various positions, specifically when we enter new realms and new arenas. And so this one came in while I was talking about that one, and that was a specifically audio episode. But as I was talking about that, it sort of kept pushing itself into my consciousness and my thought stream to really talk about it, because I could just see this timeline developing and the power of this message in itself. So let's dive right into it. The world will make room for you. This pops up so heavily within my own life, and it is very important because my whole life I have always been very different. Even in the groups that I have been within or fit in, I've always been very different. And, let's say black sheep, even if amongst black sheep. And so it was really just sort of screaming at me while I was talking about the other topic and the importance. And each time that I've thought about my life in cycles of years, and when I've hit sort of like we said, that staircase, and then before we drop back down and go, okay, now we're at the next level, or the next, the next 10th of this journey really. And so we go back to zero to only go back, but 10, 20, 30. And so doing that and making me reflect on spirituality in itself, and because we talk about this so much, and time going into itself and cycles and working through this, and so it made me really think about the times to where I embraced this understanding, whether I knew it or I was familiar with it or not. And it made me some of the more powerful times when I was not aware of this and still in a state of, oh well, I'm worried or anxious to show this side because I don't know what comes with this. And more than anything, like most people, it's a rejection. And even more specifically, of your authenticity, of you and the authentic you. And so what do we typically learn to do? We start to create a mask, and we start to create this identity, which ego also clings to and says, oh yeah, well, this is the more agreeable or the more desirable, what I desire. And so I'm going to start to mix and match these things, even if they don't really match at the core or at the soul. The ego starts to, it takes over a little bit. And so in the next, or one of the next episodes that I want to go into, is that we need to stop demonizing the ego, and we need to really start embracing and understand that it's nothing but a switch of going from the ego being superior to making the ego subservient to the soul. And so that's going to be leading out of this episode. But to go back into it, we start to really, as creatures of associations, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this to look like this, then I need this, and this person, this place, this kind of thing. So once we start to do that, again, even if it does not match at the soul or at the core, and so it's not until really that burden becomes so big and we've become so distant from what it is that we truly desire and be in tune with as our essence, and all the things that we put in between it, thinking that we are going to be fulfilled. And this was another episode that I wanted to make outside of this episode, is the fulfillment factor, and us trying to fulfill ourselves with things, when it's funny, because if we look inside, then we will have that inspiration and understand that the well springs forth from within. And so it's, again, I'm excited to do those episodes because they go to show the importance and how all of this is connected. So as we sort of walk back, we can start to see how we start distancing ourselves from what really connects us to our essence, or who the real, what is actually the real you is within, and what that really wants to get out. Many times, I'm not saying all the time, but many times, which is really the big problem, or the great disconnect is a better term to call it, that we face as humans, or we face as souls having a human experience, lacking the ability to connect or reconnect with our soul. And remember, all these things that we all have stored within, which is also within the Akasha. But it's funny because all is within. And so we start to see why we start to have that disconnect again, putting all those things in between the connection and the I am, and the honoring the I am. And I learned this word disseverance in what class was that? In philosophy, when we talked about being in time, and we had to learn the different kind of vernacular to start to operate in what was seemingly a whole different kind of universe and setting, because now we're giving time a different kind of, and this is, I was gonna say it's very basic. It's somewhat basic if you operate with this what is it? I don't want to say concept, with this field of study, but it's not basic at all. But the concept of nonlinear time being more popularized is what I'm talking about. But when we use the word disseverance, it meant closeness, and that gave us not a proximity closeness, but it gave us a closeness to almost like a within, or a withness, if we can call it, being close again, like to the soul. That is, we really we really yearn for disseverance with the soul, to really say I am, to know what I am means, to be able to say I am, and to say it with the power and with the, I want to say pride, but the acknowledgement and the awareness of what that really means it means you really know, it means you really know. And that's why you could even give off that essence as I'm giving, or that excitement, because you have actually had a sense of disseverance. You actually can say, wow, I may have even done some talks about I am. I may have done some this and that, did some workshops and all that. But the moment when you experience I am, it forever then transforms and changes you. And then you start to go from there. Oh, this is my new, again, you just hit level 10, so now we're back at 0. This is my new stepping stone to say, this is how I understand I am. And I had an understanding before, but it was an incomplete one. And of course, once we do that, we complete that circle again, we're gonna understand, or walk that staircase and drop down again. We're gonna have a new understanding of that, and we're gonna say, this is where I now have a basis from, for my previously thought as incomplete concept of. And so it's the same here. Until we have a true disseverance and closeness to who and what we are, we're going to keep having this experience where, again, this is even going to be a cycle of itself, where we start to walk away or stray away from self, and we tend to look for things, or even experiences, that can draw our attention long enough so that we can say, oh, okay, it's not so important, or it's not of the number one, or of the most importance, to know myself, to know my soul, to know my purpose, so that I can act that out. So I know if I am acting that out, am I doing so properly? And if not, how do I make the changes to do so? These are, again, we can see why I said those 2 other episodes will come out of this, of understanding fulfillment and true fulfillment, and what that means, as opposed to pleasure seeking, or pleasing the senses. That is just temporary. That's only temporary, and only temporarily will it give you the sensation that you want. And sometimes it's like this. Sometimes we want food, or we want that person, or we want that It may be a roller coaster. We just need that adrenaline rush that makes us say, oh, I'm satisfied. But it always leaves us, like Kendra said, dying for thirst, not understanding that. I was just listening to a radio show. It was the 𝗵𝗲 Bible Institute. And again, it said that, and it talked on the scripture that says, all the watering wells in the world are dry. Like, have you not realized yet? But it's source and it's God that is the well of that's the source. That's the only watering well that's going to be able to quench our spiritual thirst. And I love listening to him, because if you are really in tune with yourself, or with your connection, this is better, with your relationship to God, then honestly you can go and listen to any religion. Honestly, I know like some people are gonna be like, well, people teach this and this and that, but you can, and really you should be able to go and listen to anybody that speaks. But anybody that speaks, we're just going to say religion or spirituality, you should be able to go and listen and be able to understand and hear and be aware of the truths that are spoken of, just as much as you should be able to discern what is maybe you need to leave by the wayside. And that goes for the same for me. So you should be able to have an awareness enough. If you have an awareness with yourself, again, I'm listening to 𝗵𝗲 Bible Institute. I was raised Christian, and so I still understand and partly do identify as Christian, but more than anything, I identify as spiritual. I am spiritual, and I understand that spirituality is the understanding of being within life and living that and understanding, and really just sort of being in the study, or being the student of life. And so for me, I can still identify as being a Christian, but I don't think that is my identity. I would say I've been a Christian, and I have a lot of Christian values. And if you like, you're a Christian, I'm like, oh, maybe, But again, I am spiritual. And so I should be able to go and listen to that same way. I should be able to go into a Catholic church and hear some things and be able to say, okay, yep. Or I should be able to go listen to agnostics, or I should be able to listen to atheists. I should be able to go anywhere in any circle and be able to take what is truth and what is also, again, just, I just need to go and push that to the side. And that's not to say that some things that we are pushing to the wayside is purely preferential, but if truth is truth, then we must eventually come to accept and be able to recognize or be aware of. And that's why I say, if you are truly at one man or at one with, and have a very amicable and, I guess, aware and dissevered relationship with source, then again, that's what gives you your compass. When somebody starts to talk in the da 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 da, the rah rah rah, you should be able to say, I really have no allegiance to one man. My only allegiance is to truth. And that being your compass, you should be able to say, okay, I understand that as an expression of source. So you should be able to be, again, aware of that and be able to distinguish. That's what discernment is. And that's what gives us the ability to say, okay, I am in alignment with this, or that is in misalignment with what I believe to be as truth. Those are very important, because again, we're walking backwards, and now we're back at step one, where we say the world will make room for you. So however we decide to show up, the world is going to push aside that way. If we wake up and we decide to be grumpy, the world is going to say, all right, make world for the grumpy you. And that's how you get your responses back. People typically don't respond well to grumpy. Even happy people, you're gonna get those people that's gonna be like, oh hey, but you're pulling that away and pulling them into your vibration. And so, so we say, what kind of you do you want to put out there, so that you can start to receive an expression that is in alignment with what you deem the vibration that you want to be a part of. And more importantly than anything is actually a very apparent reflection of the dissevered relationship between you and source. It's only going to show you your connection, how far away you are getting to source. It's really a very mirrored reality where you don't have to really I'm trying to explain it, but it's so simple because the proof is in the pudding. It is as I'm saying. So example for me, I know if I'm getting more distant from people, then that means that in some way, you have to learn to do this so that you can get in tune with yourself. But to a degree, it's love thy neighbor, and it's the essence of love thy neighbor. Our reflection of our relationship with God is strictly can be seen in our relation with other people. So, do you treat other people right? Are you being kind? Are you present? Or if not, and you're just being completely distant, like I know, and I tend to isolate. And so if I start to isolate, I know that means there's something going on with my inner me. If there's something going on with my inner me, that means that there's something going on with my connection to I am, and the way that I relate and my relationship to source, to God. And then that's what lets me know, and today I had this, that's what lets me know you need to meditate. You need to sit down and get in tune with self because something greater is going on. And so no matter if I'm sitting there, this is going to be another episode, overthinking and thinking that you can think your way out of being or feeling how you're feeling, that's not that's not the way to go. And so again, what typically happens when this occurs, we will then try to fulfill ourselves because now we feel out of equilibrium. We're feeling all this static or just like this impulse of, I'm not in pleasure, or it's discomfort. However we want to say that's cueing off. It could be cueing off in both of those ways. Those don't always cue, although they may cue the same, those are not exactly the same thing. Just because you're in discomfort, or the other one that I said, just because you are not in pleasure does not mean that you are in discomfort. And just because you are in slight discomfort doesn't mean that you're not experiencing pleasure. And so those things could be shooting off again and signaling simultaneously. And so to understand, again, I was listening to Moody Bible Radio. I be going to them for some of the key, like they be hitting with some stuff. And again, I love that I can discern and I can go, perfect. That's a powerful message, and I understand and I receive that. And then some other stuff, it may be, oh, I disagree with that, or I may be like, I agree with that, and not as powerfully as the other. And so I don't go and take it and say I'm gonna go practice that as heavily today. But the importance is in being able to understand the power and able to discern and be able to be aware, and to be as skeptic as you are open as well to others' ideas, even if they are coming in the form of something that is as structured as a religion, or what may be seen as a strict ideology. What he said, and what the topic was first, was parents needing to teach their kids the importance of values, and he was talking about authenticity as well. And it was, so you already know, I was all ears. I'm like, come on, let's talk about it. And so what he said, and this really, it shifted my mind, and shifting as I'm even talking about it. He said, parents need to teach their kids the importance of values and in alignment with authenticity. And the importance of doing so is so that we can learn, and that all people learn to make decisions out of values so that they align with who you are. That's the authenticity part. So we're moving in our integrity as opposed to reacting and to circumstance or to situation. And so you're learning to, okay, because you're going to be in a situation, let's say you're going to be in a situation no matter what. And so you can either learn to just react out of circumstance, or you start to learn how to respond out of your values. And when we learn to respond out of our values, it's a multitude of benefits, from increasing self-esteem to being more courageous, just to so many different benefits, as opposed to just reacting out of circumstance and being in a situation. Because that's honestly, that's like having a chicken with his head cut off. You just running loose, like, because whatever the situation is, you're just reacting. We've talked about the importance of, and that's also something that's been a little bit more popularized, is responding over reaction. And so, not even going to go into that as much, but the difference of, because we could even say responding in the situation is better than just reacting. Because if a situation just happened, you just react, you just spur of the moment. But even responding is better, because now, okay, you're gauging the situation, you're still making more informed decisions as opposed to erratic. But when you make these and you respond to these circumstances through, first, via values, you say, okay, well, what are my values? What is actually in alignment with me? So then you can say, well, does that even align? And if the answer instantly is no, then it's off the chopping board. Why are we even talking about it? But if it is yes, then it's okay. How can I apply my values here within here? And now we start to move with the difference in the understanding that there is actually something for us to make use of our skills, talents, and more than that, it's our values, which are our guiding. Again, I said our compass was our dseverince, or our relationship with source, and that's what our values are actually attached to. So we can actually remember that our intentions are aligned with our values. And so, to transition a little bit, to go back into that, the world will make room for you. To go back to my personal experience and why it's been so important to actually emphasize, and I guess obviously to make the episode, is to remember that, I talked about the Unique Ability book a couple days ago. It's important to remember that you are unique. It's important to really, bask in that essence and realize how your uniqueness aligns with your talent, aligns with your values, so that you can have them intertwined and put all of that force and put all of that energy into the same stream. And that's what gives us more of a momentum, as opposed to going, well, maybe like, okay, I do love this job, but it's a whole bunch of wild, sketchy stuff going on that's not aligning with my values. But it's going well for me. So like, that's having your energies are not harmonious. They are in misalignment, and they are really refuting each other, which that can happen in anything. And what we really have to learn to start doing is keeping these energies in sync, and not going, okay, maybe I want to work out, no, maybe not, maybe I want to. It's, if you know that you are supposed to, you get that impulse, you got to be in alignment with it, so that and so that you can carry it out and most successfully. But when we tend to do that, what happens is we strengthen that ability we have more of a dseverince, and we start to close that relationship with I am, because then our word is even more empowered. Then again, we have a better sense of who we are. We can say, oh, this is why my values are so important, because my values are literally directly linked to the source that gives me the inspiration, the source that wakes me up, the source that says you're doing this because you are meant to be doing this, and this is what's going to have you flourishing to the best potential you. So it is essential for us to grasp and really take, again, really with awareness. We can't take hold with awareness. We really start to sink and soak within that understanding and that essence, because so it's essential for us to really take grasp of that with our awareness, and let that, and really just soak in that. so we can feel what it means to, again, be I am, to move in the I am. And when we start to do that, we start to see how the world starts to shape and move again for who we have decided to be, who we have decided to show up as. And that's what really starts to look magical when it's going as you want, and you go, whoa, all right, I said maybe, I was maybe tired the past 2 days, but today I just said, let me do it with a whole bunch more energy in the next 2 days. And then everything seemed as it was different. The world may have seemed sunnier. People may have seemed happier. And that's our ability to open up, to get close, to have that disseverance, to get closer with and walk within. So I hope this episode has been extremely informative and hopefully transformative as you really put that into thought. Just go through your day and think, okay, the world is going to move and make room for the me, for the me that I decide to show up as. And when we can get in tune with that inner me that is really, again, like I said, knocking and waiting for us to answer. So we're always having these insights and we're always getting the glimmers of all these possibilities that are infinite. That is what we are really looking at and really trying to tap into. So I hope you guys really enjoyed. This is Wake and Wellness. Health is wealth. Love you guys.